Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Members Moment. Today we have as my guest, Terri Wildfeuer Lambert. Terri would like to share her story with everyone out there, especially for the women, about her journey surviving and living with stage 3C ovarian cancer, stage 4B fallopian cancer, and high-grade serous carcinoma, to help other women while she still has the strength and determination to do so. Terri is now retired, but did work previously as an independent caregiver and now cares for her husband of 31 years who has Lewy bodies, dementia, and early Parkinson's and age-related health issues. Thank you, Terri, for coming on and sharing your important story.
Thank you.
Terri, how did your journey begin and when were you first diagnosed?
I was finally diagnosed November 25th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon at my primary doctor's office. I had been sick for some time, and that afternoon when I found out, within a couple of days, I was flown, my family flew me up here to the Mayo Clinic. We were living in Florida when I was diagnosed, and so my family flew up here, and I was here for 6 months. So, but it started November 25th, 2019.
2019, so that's 3 years ago. So were you misdiagnosed, or what was going on?
Yes, I had been very ill for at least a year. The last year before I was finally diagnosed with ovarian and fallopian cancer, I had been extremely ill, in and out of the doctor's office, back and forth to specialists, scans, blood work. They finally just were treating it as gastro-related, which I'm learning is very common. And it wasn't even a specific gastro diagnosis. It was just, here's a special diet, here's your food that you can eat and not eat, and here's your prescription, and wait and see what happens. And I gradually started gaining a lot of weight. About the time I started to go through menopause, about 2 or 3 years before that, as I reflect, I noticed I was having issues even back then, but the last year was the worst. I didn't have an appetite, but yet I was gaining weight at an alarming weight. I looked 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
Or more.
Did they put you on steroids, or what was causing that weight gain?
They did. Well, we shrugged it off to, you've been through menopause. The women in my family, some had, that women would gain weight around the midsection and think, oh, it's just coming with age, and so on and so forth. But it was the cramping I was getting, and it was the no desire to eat. My appetite was really awful. And they had done scans. The last scan they did was back in April in 2019. And so, of course, I was going to my gastro doctor every other week, and I'd gone to see him early November. And I said, something isn't working. He said, oh, just give it time. And, your body's going through a lot of changes, and so on and so forth. And he was thinking it was gallbladder related. So he was going to eventually, after Thanksgiving, he was going to do some tests to see if my gallbladder needed to come out. And I'll never forget, it was the Friday before I was diagnosed. I had an appointment with my primary doctor, who I've gone to for 30 years, known him forever, trust him completely. And it was an appointment I really didn't need to keep. It was just a follow-up for some blood work I had done. And I told my husband, I said, I'm going to keep that appointment. I really didn't have a reason why. I'm going to keep that appointment. So went to my appointment as usual. And, it was, how you doing? Here's your test results, and so on and so forth. And everything was kind of winding down. And he said, so anything else before you head off for the holidays? And I thought for a second or two, and I don't know where this came from. It wasn't planned. It wasn't something that I had rehearsed in my head. I I sort of slumped in my chair and I said, Doc, I said, I've known you for years. I'm following my diet. I'm taking my medication. And I stood up and I showed him my stomach and I said, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
All your tests are good. Your scan was clear. Your blood work. During that year, I developed high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They thought I was diabetic. I had all these issues going on and no answers. And I said, Doc, I said, something is seriously wrong with me.
Right.
And he said, okay, tell you what, he said, we'll rerun the scan. I'll put it down as urgent with the holidays coming up. I don't want you stressing. Because I said, you know, we've got family coming down. The holidays are coming. I wanted to enjoy myself and not be miserable. So he had the nurse schedule the appointment for Monday morning. And ironically, I left that appointment elated. I was relieved. It was like, it was a feeling of, I'm going to find out what's wrong with me. He listened to me, find out what's wrong with me. I was actually excited. I mean, who's excited about CT prep and CT scan, right?
Right.
So
but you had a gut feeling. I mean, you had a gut feeling
yeah, so
something was wrong.
I knew
And he
something
picked
was
up on
wrong.
that. He picked up on that.
Yes, right. Something was wrong. So I went in Monday morning at 11 and went at the stand. I was excited. I said, I get to find out what's wrong with me today.
Right.
And not even thinking that he said, well, this may show no results just like before. You know, it's going to come out that there's nothing wrong. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking, we're going to have an answer today. I was just, something told me that. And I got home about noon. And shortly after I got home, I got the phone call from his nurse. And she said, Doc wants to see you this afternoon and bring your husband, bring Michael. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't take him. And I wasn't alarmed. I didn't have racing thoughts. I wasn't, you know, thinking, oh my God, is it, you know, am I dying? Cancer didn't even pop into my head. I didn't know what it was, but I thought, okay, I get to find out. And so I went in and the office was eerily quiet. It was later in the day. The nurse just brought me into the exam room. There was no wait. There was no blood pressure. She just said, Doc, I'll be back with you in a minute. And I said, okay. And he came in with one piece of paper, one single piece of paper. And he said, and he sort of got a little teary-eyed and he said, I can't say it. You're like a sister to me. I can't say it. And he handed me the paperwork and it was circled the cancer diagnosis. And at that time, they were already saying, based on the size and the location and just what was showing on the scan, that it was more than likely ovarian stage 3C. And then
So we're talking about a tumor. We're talking about a tumor.
Yeah. Well, it was in my, initially it lit up that it was in my ovary on my right side.
Okay.
It didn't show up anywhere else on the original CT scan. So they ordered us an immediate PET scan, which is more detailed.
Yeah.
So they did the PET scan, they did the blood work, and had me see a gynecologic oncologist in Florida. And the cancer is measured by CA-125, which measures the cancer antigens. And mine was 6,000 off the charts. It was 6,000 plus.
Wow.
Normal is 35 below. And I went to see the gynecologic oncologist, and all he said to me was, there was no, hello, how are you feeling? Let's talk about this. It was, your surgery's on Friday.
Wow.
And my sister is my health advocate. And my sister said it before I did. She says, well, what if we can get her to Mayo Clinic and he couldn't sign the referral paperwork fast enough. He was like, "If go, how soon can you get there?" And they did the referral paperwork right away. And I literally went from the airport to Mayo to start my pre-op and met with the doctors. They immediately got me started with palliative care. One thing I speak very, very highly for is palliative care. There's that dark cloud that people hear palliative care and they automatically think hospice.
Yeah.
And hospice is for comfort care without treatment. You're not seeking to get better. With palliative care, it's comfort care while you're receiving treatment, while you're actively trying to get better. So I had a wonderful, excuse me, palliative doctor. And my scans were still showing at the time that it was primarily in my ovaries. But with ovarian cancer, even with a PET scan, ovarian cancer is very silent, quiet, and it will hide. So you could have a clear scan, but someone physically, surgically going in is when it's actually found and actually properly diagnosed.
Which is pretty scary.
Yes,
Yeah.
because by the time I got in for surgery, because on the scans, my gallbladder looked good. She said nothing was really alarming other than the ovarian. And initially she was talking about doing laparoscopic. And then she said, she said, "I don't like the look of your scan." So she did a full open surgery from my breastbone all the way down. And my surgery was over 8 hours. And during that surgery, there was cancer found in my gallbladder, my appendix, the lower portion of my colon was removed, and a total hysterectomy. And then it was during the testing of the fallopian tubes that they found the 4B fallopian cancer. And typically, ovarian cancer starts in the fallopian tubes, and it will sit in your fallopian tubes, and it could sit there. It could take 5 to 6 years before it gets to the ovaries. And it could even last that long before it's even detected, because again, in my scans, my cancer was either very, very aggressive, because like I said, I had a clear scan in April of 2019. So by November, here I have stage 3, stage 4 cancer shows up.
It metastasized really fast.
Right. Well, they don't know if it had metastasized, it was that fast and aggressive, or if it just wasn't detectable any other way until they surgically went in.
Terri, what you were also diagnosed with high-grade serous carcinoma.
Yeah, there's the different stages. For example, 3C means it's the third stage out of 4, and then C is the highest. There's A, B, C, and C means that it's already spread to other areas. And then the stage 4, which is determined, the stages are typically determined pathologically, and then the grades, or the A, B, C. For example, 4B means that it has gone beyond the fallopian tubes and the ovaries, and it's spread outside of that area. So, or metastasizes, as most people would call it. I
was going to ask, did the medical team discuss any statistics or odds or compare you to others relating to your life expectancy?
Initially, no. My medical team, my oncology team, does not like to talk about just statistics or percentages or odds. But my sister told me after my surgery that the doctor told her, because I was I wasn't comprehending a lot. My sister made a lot of my decisions during that time. Once I was diagnosed, I sort of my brain kind of went into a fog.
Yeah.
I never had a moment of, oh, I'm dying, or, oh, I have cancer. I just let my sister handle a lot of those decisions. But the statistics, they had told my sister that I would be given, I had 5 years, and that would be 5 not great years. That meant either repeated cancer or additional treatment or additional surgeries. And so my doctor, I didn't know that portion. And I kept asking my doctor, and she said, nope, we don't talk about statistics. We don't talk about numbers. We look at you as a person, because with ovarian cancer, they're still learning. There's no means of detection. There's no means of prevention. There's no, for example, breast cancer. Every year, every woman out there can say, yep, I get hounded by my doctor. I have to go in for my mammogram every year. Have to get it done. There's nothing for ovarian cancer. So my doctor did discuss statistics with me on my assistance one time. And we had that discussion, and she says, we're never going to have that conversation again. According to the statistics, I should have had a reoccurrence of cancer within the first 3 to 6 months, definitely within the first year. And I finished chemotherapy April 29th, 2020. And I haven't had a reoccurrence since I finished chemo. So I've been no evidence of NED.
That's
so
great.
Statistics are basically, I have a 95% chance of, I should have already had cancer. So I get tested every 3 months. Not scans, just my CA-125. It's not a test for everyone. It's not a good indicator for everyone. For me, it is. So it's a very good regulator. So as long as my numbers stay below that 35 range, they don't worry about doing a scan, unless there's something that they're concerned about. And right now I've been maintaining at about 11. In fact, I just got my results a couple of days ago. I'm at 11.
Great, great. Have you utilized any support groups, and are there any organizations out there you recommend for women dealing with this?
Well, COVID decided to hit as I was starting chemo.
Yeah,
And
2020.
so support groups were shut down. And
Well, anything virtual?
there was
Online?
some, there mostly with my palliative nurse and my palliative doctor. At the time, there really wasn't anything virtually. So I spent a lot of time just sort of researching and learning. I have since gotten involved with a couple of support groups on Facebook. There's one specifically for women who are stage 3, stage 4, and I do recommend that one. If you are going to get into a support group, there's the first one I joined was specifically for ovarian cancer, but it was any stage. So you had some that were brand new, you had some who had been, cancer free for years. I'm never going to be cancer free. My stage 4B, I'm never going to hear the word cured. I'm never going to hear the word remission. No evidence of disease is the best I can do. So I do, with the support group being in the stage 3, stage 4, I have women who are not, I haven't found anyone who's got what I am experiencing. But at least they're in the same category. So there's a lot of things that we have similar that we deal with.
Terri,
and then I've also,
do you remember do you remember the name of those groups, that support group you were talking about?
So the one on Facebook is ovarian cancer stage 3 and 4.
Okay.
And then another organization is to connect yourself with MOCA, MOCA. Now that's for in Minnesota. Stay local as much as you can, because then you have an easier connection to other women locally. So MOCA is the Minnesota organization, the Minnesota Ovarian Cancer Association. And they have a list of, there's several on Instagram. They do fundraisers, they do research. There's the Teal Sisters are very helpful on Facebook as well as Instagram. They keep me updated on new advances. There's different studies that are going on. But I'm going to be starting my own group here locally because one doesn't exist. The reason for ovarian cancer, the support groups aren't there, is because it's one of the deadliest cancers for women gynecologically. And it's typically not caught because there is no early detection. In fact, I'm part of a group now that we're working on a project for those who have been misdiagnosed for so long and not discovered until the later stages.
Yeah.
So, the early detection is really important.
So what advice, Terri, do you have for women out there concerning ovarian cancer? What can you tell just the average woman listening to this? You know, she's hearing your story, finding out that there's, really no way to diagnose this thing, accurately in the beginning. What can you tell women?
One, listen to your body. Be open with the women in your family. Learn your family history as much as you can, as far back as you can. The older generations in my family is we didn't discuss anything below the waist. We didn't discuss. That was private. That was it's not a cancer that's really much talked about because it's caught so late. So women need to, there are symptoms. If you go into a support group, we all have the same symptoms, which is the excessive bloating in the abdominal area, the tiredness, the feeling of feeling full. So not having an appetite, low energy, blood pressure going up and down, cholesterol numbers going up and down. All my numbers are stable now.
Okay.
Since my cancer's gone, I lost 60 pounds. My blood pressure went to normal and my cholesterol is normal. So no of those medications are all gone. So for women, if you start having, especially around the menopausal areas, and you start seeing things change and your cramps are getting worse, if your periods are extra heavy and really super painful, I even went to my gynecologist at that time when that started, and that was about 2 years before I was diagnosed. And he did the internal exam, and he says, "Yep, your ovaries are done. You're menopause. You're done. You're good." So he didn't even feel anything then. And it's not detected by Pap tests. So the only thing I can say is if after a certain amount of time, like with me, I wished I had said something sooner. I went through all these tests and there was no diagnosis, but the symptoms weren't going away. And so if you're not finding answers, whether it's cancer or not cancer, if you're not finding answers, go to another doctor, get another opinion.
Okay.
Just be an advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. One last question. Genetics. Is there any genetic test for this?
There is. As soon as I was diagnosed, or I'm sorry, not when I was diagnosed, during my surgery, besides to test my particular cancer, they test for different things. The genetic testing determines if it's genetically, if I got my cancer from genetics within the family. Mine was not genetically connected.
Okay.
So my cause is possibly the fact I didn't have children naturally is actually one cause. There's some other factors that factor in. There's not having kids and issues with your time of the month, your menstrual period. And I'm sorry, chemo brain. What was your? I lost my
Well,
train
no,
of.
the reason I asked that is I'm a male breast cancer survivor twice. I
Yeah.
got it. And those who have the BRCA gene
Yes,
mutation
yes,
are
yes,
more prone to, well, in the women, are more prone to ovarian
yes,
cancer and
yes,
melanomas. That's why I was asking that.
yes,
But
yes.
you made the point, and the women out there need to know that
Well,
keep
what I want
this
to,
in the back of your mind.
yeah, what I want to say real quick, because I'm BRCA negative. So when they do the genetic testing, so that determines where your cancer came from. Mine didn't come from genetics. The other thing that genetic testing does is it determines that for me, just me, based on my genetic makeup, what cancer maintenance medication will help me stay cancer free, will
Yeah,
help me ward off cancer. And my testing, I'm not only BRCA negative, but there's not a maintenance medication out there that will help me. There was the benefits was the percentage they gave me was 3% benefit. And that was an obvious. So I'm on a wish and a prayer.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, Terry, again for being on a Members Moment and sharing your story with us. You're very brave. You're very courageous to do that, and it's not an easy task. I want to wish you nothing but good fortune going forward, and please stay strong.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.